From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of evenings, LA, with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording, we'll go over that monthly stimulus check, and we'll go over the recon pass, a $3.5 trillion reconciliation budget bill passed about a week ago, and guess what? The progressives now confirmed that everything in that recon passed is staying in there. Nothing's getting removed. Nothing's getting changed. No dollar amounts getting changed. I'll explain what will be changed. It's not your money. Then we'll be going over all those clusters of checks that got in there. Cluster number 1, 2, and 3. All the incredible sums of money that are detailed in this channel, they got in there. Then we'll go over that IRS monthly stimulus check. No less than 1,000 viewers of this channel told it's going in there. And now you're going to hear the incredible reassurances this last week that's still going on in there. And then you're going to hear the big exclusive, as now this channel is part of the equation to get that recon over the finish line, as the progressives are tracking and keeping track and logging all your incredible comments of advocacy for inclusion of stimulus in that recon. It's a great evening, and the details start right here, right now, as we go into a big, bold, beautiful evening that starts right this evening on LALATE. Starting, sometime soon. I don't know, maybe I'll start the video in a second. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't work. And it starts right now. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful evening across the board. It's a little bit warmer here in Santa Monica by the coast. The warm weather has come on in. Jump on in the live chat and tell me how the weather is where you are this beautiful evening. The dramatics and the exciting details is that the $3.5 trillion recon passing in that House Budget Committee, and now being told over the weekend, everything in that recon is staying in there. All the payment items are staying exactly as they are, and the amounts staying exactly as they are. This is as the Democrats also reassured viewers of this channel they're inserting that IRS stimulus check provision, and guess what? Now, this channel, part of the equation to get that check across the finish line. I'll go over the first, second, and third clusters in that recon. We'll go over the third stimulus. We'll be going over what the president said, what the progressives said, and why it's important to understand that while the recon passed on that Saturday, it still passed because everything is still staying in there, say the progressives. Wow, it's a big evening, and it starts right now, so subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. For a reason, you're only going to see the breadth of the coverage across the board on this channel. About a week and a half ago, the House Subcommittee, Budget Subcommittee, chaired by Sheila Jackson, who's the vice chair of the Progressive Caucus under Jalopal, passed the $3.5 trillion recon. Broadcast media never covered it. Print media never covered it. YouTube channels don't even know it existed. And that passage was critical because, as Jackson says, loaves of stimulus were put in there, and all those loaves remain in there. She's not going to do a half loaf, and nothing is getting reduced at all in the next few days with those negotiations with those moderates. I'll explain all these incredible details. Subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's cut to the incredible details in this video. We're going to go over the first cluster pass, second cluster pass, third cluster pass. Then we'll be going over the IRS stimulus check. We'll be turning back to what the president said and what Jackson said about the negotiations and why it's important to understand that everything that's passed is staying in there. Nothing is getting removed. But the back end is what's going to get changed, not your money. That's what changes the total price tag. Then we'll be turning to the big exclusive, as now this channel is a critical ingredient to getting your recon pass. It's all big, and we're going to go over third stimulus as well. But first, let's start with each of those clusters. Cluster number 1 passed. And what was in that cluster? Money for hazard pay. $4,000 of care for elderly, young children, $51,000 of MSEs, college grants, weatherizing your home, and then money for bikes, cars, and trucks. All right, let's go over all of them starting right now. They got hazard pay in there, huge. They're going to expand the EIC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, an old tax code, to broaden the eligibility and then increase the amount of money. And this is big for essential workers after the big advocacy for this channel. This channel was the biggest place for advocacy for hazard pay in 2020 for no less than 300 videos. Now it's getting in there. Then they're going to pay up to $4,000 a year to care for an elderly person at home, and then up to $4,000 a year to care for a young child. They got money in there for the home. If that home is in a low-income community, there'll be free money to repair the home. Then they got in there $51,000 of monthly stimulus checks. How much is this? How does this work? This is the CTC, the Child Tax Credit, broadening the eligibility and expanding the payments. First, more people will qualify. Non-biological parents that were admitted before will now be included. And then they're expanding it over 18 years. If eligible. How much does this pay? A lot. Up to $300 every month, every year for up to 18 years that household is low income. That's $51,000 a child. Then they got money in there for grants for college students directly to them into the university, and then the Pell's grant made tax-free. And finally, money for bikes, cars, and trucks. All electric, all U.S. auto manufactured. First, up to 15% of a new electric bike, then $7,500 for new electric vehicle, personal use, a little bit more for business use, and then for an electric truck as well. Wow, that's the first cluster passed. In a second, we're going to go over the second cluster and third cluster passed, and those IRS stimulus checks. Then we'll be cutting back to the world exclusive. But first, let's take a detour over the third stimulus for just a blink of an eye. Third stimulus got additional cash infusion, $13 billion, landing in your cities, counties, and states for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. If you remember this channel, which I hope you are, the link's under the video, you now get this in the newsletter. The Treasury is happy to provide the state and local governments with these additional resources for people in time of need. I'm going to show you how to get this big money later in this video. Stay to the final 15 minutes of this video. I have big money for you coming up. But now let's turn to the second cluster of checks passed. These are huge. They start with paid family leave and paid medical leave. Now remember, the recon has nothing to do with COVID. You don't have to be COVID related to get this money. You can be in any state of the United States. It's not a state stimulus. It's federal stimulus. And it's for all different walks of life. Paid leave and paid medical leave. How much does it pay? Under third stimulus, it was $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. Split in half. $35,000 annual salary, $800 a week, split in half. $15,000 annual salary, $400 a week. What is paid family leave? You have to stay home because your wife is pregnant, for example. Paid medical leave, what is that? You have to stay home because your son broke his leg. All right, they got other clusters of checks in the second package. Build-up of childcare programs, then household tax credit checks, then checks for seniors. More about these in the third cluster, but that's dental, vision, and hearing. And then they got money to weatherize your home. Yeah, weatherize your home. Definitely needed if the moderate Democrats are on the roof. Always remember, keep the moderate Democrats out of the House. And also out of the Senate. There we go. Lock the door, Chuck. Don't let them in. And then universal pre-kindergarten. Then free community college across the country. Definitely need it for those people that say, what the world are you saying, LA? You don't make any sense. Now you can take the class called 101, What is LA saying? Then when you're advanced into 202, the 202 class, it's called Los Angeles. Be fluent in that strange language, foreign language called Los Angeles. There you go. In a second, we'll go over the third cluster checks. They got those in there as well. And those are huge. Checks for seniors and workers coming up in a second. But first, what is Congress doing? Well, what Congress is doing right now is really salivating on three major wins for that recon by the progressives. The progressives got 1, 2, 3 wins. First, blocking the vote on Thursday on the roads and bridges. Second, blocking the vote on a Friday for the roads and bridges. And finally, getting the president to reassure the American people through his conversations with those House and Senate Democrats on Friday that there would be no vote anytime, anywhere on the roads and bridges until there's agreement on the recon. Wow. Now, later in this video, I'm going to go over all the dramatics of what's going on and why this is great for you. And more importantly, the mathematics of the situation. As Sheila Jackson, the number 2 in the Progressive Party, under Jolipal, and also Jolipal saying the same thing, that what they're doing right now is not in any regard removing anything from the recon that's been passed. They're not going to remove program number 1 or program number 2. Moreover, they're not reducing the monies for program number 1 or program number 2. I just showed you $4,000 of care for an elderly. They're not taking it out, and they're also not switching it to $2,000. So what are they saving the money? On the back end for the pay-fors. I'll explain for what this means. It has nothing to do with your wallet. It's coming up later in this video. Time for the third cluster of checks. You ready? These are the checks the president's very excited. I'm very excited about for. They have checks for lots of different delicious things. Free school meals for all checks. Then cheaper prescription medication checks. Checks for farmers. Checks for free internet. Checks for clean energy. Then we have checks for workers, and then checks for seniors like dental, vision, hearing checks, and checks for lowering eligibility age for Medicare. The president likes the third cluster, and as I do, because these checks are instant savings to you. First, the cheaper prescription medication. Let's say you go to the pharmacist today and say, Mr. Pharmacist, I have a really bad headache. Oh, really? Why is that, Ella? Have you been listening to the moderate Democrats? Yes, how'd you know? Do you have a solution for that, Mr. Pharmacist? I do. The midterm elections. Yeah, I don't need jokes, Mr. Pharmacist. I need a prescription. Oh, yeah. And then you take two $20 bills out of your wallet to pay for the prescription. Well, then, after this becomes law, and the moderate Democrats are still there, apparently, then when you go to refill the prescription, you may only have to take one $20 bill out of your wallet. Then they're going to offer free internet across the globe. This is huge. Cities, red, blue, purple, across the country, rich, poor, will be given fortune from the federal government so they can offer their own free internet companies. So all you have to do is say, I'd like to get connected. Oh, really? Can I have the username and password? The username is Facebook is down, and the password is troll stay away. Yes, it was one of those days. They had nowhere to go. I mean, they had nowhere to go. Even the amusement parks were closed. There you go. Crayleville, lock the doors. Don't let them in. So there you go. Later in this video, we'll go over all the exciting details. As Sheila Jackson really explains to us, that the incredible, wonderful negotiations that are going on right now with the moderate Democrats does not involve removing any loaf of bread. Does not involve giving a half a loaf of bread. In fact, all it does is figuring out how to pay for the loaf of bread in a different way. It's all really wonderful news. Then we'll go over that big exclusive, as this channel is now part of the equation to get that recon over the finish line. Wow. But first, let's turn to those monthly IRS stimulus checks. It's important to understand that advocacy starts here. And advocacy is very, very important. And over the last week, viewers who have advocated for that inclusion of that stimulus check got reassurances. Over the last 8 weeks, no less than 1,000 viewers have been told by over a dozen House and Senate members that stimulus check is in there after they advocated for it. And this last week, that continued. 3 viewers who advocated for a stimulus check picked up the phone and advocated and were told by Sanders' office it's going in there. They were told by AOC, Jalapal, and Omar. And Donnie's wife picked up the phone and advocated to Chuck Schumer's office and his office as well. Said on Wednesday, before that Roads and Bridges vote, it's going in there as well. We'll go over more about this advocacy, why it's important to understand how advocacy works and why it's getting very exciting. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as the excitement heats up on Evenings LA. We'll go over a little bit more about these IRS stimulus checks. We'll go over the big exclusive, and then we'll be going over what they're doing on the recon with that inclusion. It's coming up, and I'll see you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. home. LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Evenings LA, live direct from Santa Monica, tape from Santa Monica, in a big, bold, beautiful evening with your fourth stimulus check update of 2021 continuing. The recon is going to stay exactly as passed. That's what's being reported tonight. The recon, as passed no less than a week ago, has all those incredible clusters of checks in there, and everything is going to stay exactly as it is. So how are they going to make modifications? I'll explain what Sheila Jackson explained on Saturday. I'll go over Bernie, AOC, and also Jalapal's comments from Sunday. I'll go over what the president said about timeline and what you need to know going forward. Then we'll be cutting to that big, exciting details of third stimulus and the big shocker, as now this channel is part of the equation to get that stimulus over the finish line. We'll go over all these incredible details as a big evening continues right now, so subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. This is the family that's informed, educated, and ready to advocate. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Coming up next is Overnight's Crypto, and then shows at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11:30 tonight. Meantime, let's turn to the big surprising details that unfolded on Sunday. I'll be detailing this throughout tomorrow and throughout the week, and it started with this. 8 weeks ago, I told you the importance of advocating for a stimulus check inclusion, and WR picked up the phone and advocated. And then I said, reach out to Bernie Sanders' office after a particular comment was made to him. I said, advocate for the inclusion of a stimulus check. And Brother Joshua, along with Lynn Glenn and Margaret, did. And Brother Joshua advocated for that inclusion. And Sanders' office said, yes, it's going in there, but he needs to hear from you. And at the time, we thought he means he has to hear from us. Well, unbeknownst to us, it's that he needs to hear from you so that he can share it with others. Who? Let me tell you what happened over the weekend. One viewer revealed to me that in her conversations with a top aide in Senator Bernie Sanders' offices in D.C., the Vermont senator's top aide revealed to that viewer that Sanders' office has been getting so many wonderful hundreds, thousands of calls, emails, and voicemails from you, Purple Power, advocating for inclusion of stimulus check with all unique stories all across the country, that they have now been keeping track of them and logging them, voicemails, emails, and messages with the staffers, so that they can now share them with others. Who are those others? The moderate Democrats. For anyone who says that maybe you don't need this money, maybe you're not really asking for this money, to show these are the people that have been asking for this money. Now this channel once again has taken a historic role because this channel is being used, my videos, my recordings, and also your advocacy, to show that millions of Americans are asking for it and that they need to do it. Let's understand how this channel is quite different. This channel has viewers who are Republican, advocating for this inclusion, Democrats who are advocating for this forced stimulus recon, progressives and moderate Democrats, all advocating for it. We have viewers in red states, Florida and Texas, viewers in blue states, California and New York. We have viewers of all different walks of life advocating for the same thing. And in a universe in which maybe a moderate Democrat's saying, I don't know if people in my state really want this, the proof is in the pudding. With this channel of millions of views, the biggest platform on YouTube, the biggest platform on social media, the biggest millions and millions of viewers on a regular basis, this platform has all of America coming together and saying, we want it. Let's be heard. It was about 4 weeks ago I said, if you flood those offices of Sanders and Warren and Schumer, they're going to say, have you been getting those phone calls from LA viewers? We have. And that's reportedly what the aide told one of the viewers of this channel, that the conversations were coming in so much magnitude across all these senatorial offices. They were talking about us, and that they were specifically impressed by your incredible advocacy, your unique stories of why you need this money. And that's why it's important to advocate, especially if you're in the states of Arizona and West Virginia. When you pick up an advocate, say you're calling from as a viewer of LALATE, and that you want this money, that you need this money, and that you're from this particular state, whatever the state is. Especially if you're Arizona, West Virginia, speak up. Why? A very fascinating article released over the weekend had a quote by a former pollster called Ben Tolchin, who writes that the way Obama would have done this is a little bit differently. He would have actually gone to the states of West Virginia and Arizona and said to the residents, do you want the money? Yeah, oh, you do? You want these programs? You do? Well, then tell your senator, Kristen Sinema, you want this money and that she should do it. That's sort of what's happening right now. That you, as viewers in red and blue states, as viewers in progressive and moderate states, are stepping forward and saying, I want this money. And the proof is being used here as evidence with the moderate Democrats to say, hey, you're out of touch. Americans want this money. Here's the proof. LA's viewers want our proof as millions and millions of viewers are stepping forward saying they want this money. All right, let's turn back to that IRS stimulus check with the advocacy, starting back how it started 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago, I said, pick up the phone and advocate for inclusion of a stimulus check. And WR did. WR picked up the phone and advocated for himself, his family, community, called Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware, and advocated for inclusion of a stimulus check. And Chris Coons' office said, yes, that monthly stimulus check is going in the forced stimulus recon. Then, about 3 weeks ago, this channel really picked up. I think you noticed the difference. Things have sort of changed overnight. A lot of breaking stories on the hour, by the hour. A lot of exclusives. I reported to you that the House would be writing the recon legislation. They did. Sheila Jackson, as the lead author, she's, of course, the vice chair of the Progressive Caucus. I told you that the subcommittee of the House would vote first. They did. And that the House floor would vote first. They will be. And then I told you Bernie Sanders is critical to the equation. He is. He's the guy who got the $3.5 trillion price tag. It was at that time that Bernie Sanders had a pivotal quote to press. He said that unlike prior budget chairmen, I like to get out amongst the people when doing a recon. Well, I said, if you listen carefully, that means that he wants to hear from you. Pick up the phone and advocate. And pick up the phone and advocate. And that's what Brother Joshua did, Margaret did, and Lynn Glenn did. Now, what is advocacy and what is not advocacy? And tonight on Evenings LA, I want to do it a little bit differently because I want to make this a little bit clear. You know, when I talk about advocacy, I don't often talk about what it's not. I tell you, sporadically, it's not treating them like a FedEx tracking tool. It's not treating them like a UPS tracking tool. But I also want to speak a little bit more about what it is not. Advocacy is not, hi, Senator Sanders' office, am I getting a check? Hi, am I getting $1,200 or $2,000? Hi, are you going to include it? That's not advocacy. That's asking questions that are prompting a no answer. That's not advocacy. Advocacy is telling the listener what you need. It's not asking questions. It's advocating. Advocacy looks like this. Another Margaret in the live in the comments a few days ago wrote the following. I picked up the phone and I called and I expressed so deeply why I needed. I started breaking down in tears with the staffer. Do you think she was asking questions in the conversation? She wasn't. She was advocating so strongly that her emotions came up and she started crying, and the staffer on the phone cried with her. Another viewer writes, I told her how I lost my husband during the pandemic. I've had 10 surgeries, how I've had to raise 2 teenage daughters on SSI and SSDI, and that this is not enough money. You notice the emphatic statement there? It's not enough money. That's not a question. That's not, hi, Ron Wyden, am I getting a check? No. That's not the question. That's not the conversation being had. That is, I want to tell you, I'm not getting enough money on SSDI. This is why I need the money. You need to pass this because I'm not getting enough money. That's advocacy. It's very, very different than the other thing. And that's what Brother Joshua did. Picked up the phone and called Bernie Sanders' office, advocated for himself, his family, his church, and this family and this community. Brother Joshua is a 2020 volunteer to the community page and longtime viewer. Margaret did and Lynn Glenn did. All three viewers confirmed the inclusion of that stimulus check. And Brother Joshua told, yes, $1,300 to $1,600, $1,000 to $1,300, 3 to 6 months. But that Sanders' office needs to hear from you to make sure you support him on this. Well, now we know that importance. That advocacy took us to another level. And then the whole universe started changing very quickly. You've met Donnie earlier. You met Donnie's wife early in this video. Well, let's meet Donnie. Here are some comments that were posted in either the live chat or in social media. Here's what Donnie writes. Notice the advocacy by Donnie. He writes, I told them why I need it. My city needs it. I need it to progress. I need it for my water bill. I need it for everything. That's advocacy. He is telling them I need it. And they said, yes, we're putting it in there. Hurricane Tina picking up the phone and advocating. And Sanders' office saying, yes, it's going in there. Caroline advocating because she says, she writes, I told them we're losing our homes and everything we got. And they said, yes, they're putting it in there. That's true advocacy, impressive advocacy. Messages kept on coming on in. Yeah. I called Ron Wyden's office, and yes, they're putting SS200 in there. Advocacy takes so many different faces, but we learned the importance of making multiple calls, not one call. And that's what Will did. He called 3 offices in one day. I called Bernie's office, I called Schumer's office, and I called Warren's office. This is what Will wrote. And all 3 of them confirmed the inclusion of the stimulus check. I explained my situation. That's his version of advocacy. Now, make very clear, this is a channel that respects people's privacies, so I'm not going to post everyone's particular advocacy, what they said about their medical condition or their financial. I'm not going to post that in a public forum. And I respect the viewers who also are keeping it out of the public discussion. But that's the advocacy there. I explained my situation. That's how he writes it. Clearly, that's his advocacy. He doesn't want to post publicly what he said about his situation, financial or medical. And then Liz Warren's office said, yes, she's putting it in there. $1,400 to $2,000. Lorica picking up the phone and calling Bob Casey's office, advocating for it, and Bob Casey's office saying, yes, it's going in there. At that point, 1,000 viewers of this channel advocated vigorously, advocated for that inclusion of that stimulus check, and being told by senator after senator, it's going in there. Being told by Coons, Sanders, Warren, Schumer, Casey, Wyden, it's going in there. Then I said, pick up the phone and call over to AOC, Jalapal, Omar, and Pelosi. I now add Sheila Jackson to the list. And viewers did that. Janice, I called every congressman, and yes, I called Jalapal, and she said, forced stimulus check is going in there. And the messages kept on coming on in. Janice also called Omar. Here is Ida, who called Omar, advocated, got the confirmation, is going in there, she writes, Ida. And then Lynn Glenn called Jalapal. Yes, it's going in there. That's the face of advocacy, and that's what advocacy gets you, because people are advocating, and elected officials are elected to advocate as well. It's a match made in heaven. Meantime, let's go over the incredible great news as your recon is not going to get anything removed from it. And none of the items or checks that I've mentioned in this video are getting changed either. Let's go over all the incredible details, starting with understanding what the president endured last week, the 3 wins that were given to your recon, and what happened with the president, Jalapal, AOC, and Sanders in comments over the weekend. About mid to late July, we had one bill, roads and bridges and recon together. But the moderate Democrats said, I'm not going to do that as one bill, split in half. The president made the concession, saying, I'll split it in half. But remember, the 2 items must go together at the same time. They must be called for a vote at the same time. They must land on my desk in the White House at the same time for me to sign. And then, shortly thereafter, the moderate Democrats didn't keep their promise. They immediately tried to hustle Pelosi to have a vote on just the roads and bridges last Thursday, and she agreed. Then, going into the vote on Thursday, the progressives, led by Jalapal, Vice Chair Sheila Jackson, polled their progressives to ensure that they would be voting against the roads and bridges. Pelosi only has a 3-Democrat lead in the House, so she can't lose 3 votes. She was set to lose 60 to 100 because all the progressives were ready to vote against it. And then, 9 o'clock on Thursday night, the vote is not called. The progressives block it. 10 o'clock, they're told everyone can go home. Big win for your recon. Then, Friday morning, I told you I don't see anything changing here. And there was nothing changing. As Liz Warren saying the moderates are not keeping their promise, vote down the roads and bridges, Bernie Sanders saying the same. And yet, again, another win. No vote on the roads and bridges. Finally, the president calls in separate meetings for the Democrats in the House and the Democrats in the Senate. He says the following very clear message. Number 1, there will be no vote on the roads and bridges at all until you agree upon the recon. And I'm instructing Pelosi not to start any voting until there's agreement on the recon. Done deal. That's how I'm doing it. Number 2, he said, I'm keeping my promise. I said there's 2 bodies of legislation. They're to go at the same path and the same time, and some people were trying to not follow my promise. That's what we're doing. Wow, great news. Now, Saturday, Pelosi issued a letter to her colleagues that is very poorly phrased. It's just confusing to read. You read it, it looks like she sounds like she's calling the vote on the roads and bridges by Halloween. Well, immediately the president got word of that, and on the South Lawn in the White House, he said, no, there is no timeline about anything. We don't have any dates for any voting. Then on Sunday, he made it even clear, thank goodness for him. He wanted to make it super clear to the press. He had his advisor, White House advisor, Cedric Richmond, appear on broadcast media and say, we do not have a time frame on it for voting. So that was very clear. Bernie Sanders appeared on broadcast media on Sunday. He says, no timeline either. Then Jalapal and AOC were asked about basically the substance of the recon. And Jalapal said that the president told her since that Thursday not to focus on any number price tag for the recon, focus on the programs and that the programs will stay in there. Then AOC said much the same. All right, now let me go to Sheila Jackson, who, God bless her, because she really gave us the clearest interview we've had in over a week. Who is Sheila Jackson? You may not have met her on this channel before. She is the vice chairman of the Progressives and under Jalapal, and she's a House member. Sheila Jackson appeared on broadcast media on Saturday and explained what will be going on with the recon this week and how the recon will get changed, but not your money, ever. Sheila Jackson said, well, the recon is made up of a series of programs, and no program in that recon is getting removed, and no program in that recon is getting reduced. So, for example, 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. It's staying in there. It's not coming out, ever. And it's also not getting reduced from like 15% to 5%. That's not happening ever. That's what's important. So how do they make changes on the recon? The way they make changes on the recon, as Jackson explained, is not your money, but the back end. How they're paying for each program through corporate taxes and wealth taxes. That's where they make the modifications so that the price tag of the whole recon comes down. They don't reduce the price tag of the recon by removing programs. She said emphatically, 1, no program will be removed from the recon. Number 2, the programs in the recon are not getting different items, like $4,000 of care for the elderly. It won't be $2,000. It won't be $1,000. It's going to stay at $4,000. This is big. That's why this channel is so important. That's why this breadth of depth of coverage is so important, because the recon passed a week ago on that Saturday night. That recon pass is the recon. It's not getting changed. What's getting changed is the back end. Now, things can be added to the recon, but nothing is getting removed. Now, the only thing that potentially could again get changed, but again, it doesn't impact you, is how long a program runs for. And I don't mean 6 months versus a year. I mean 10 years versus 20 years versus 30 years. Remember in July, Bernie Sanders went into the negotiations for the recon with those Senate Democrats and asked for $7 trillion? And it came out celebratory at $3.5 trillion, saying he got all his programs paid 100% of what he wanted. But how does that work? If 3.5 is half of 7, it looks like he's getting half the amount of money. No, he's getting the same program for a shorter period of time. Here's an example. 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. You could potentially go into negotiations asking for 20 years, and it costs a certain amount of money to do it for 20 years. And then you can walk out of the negotiations with a deal to do it for 10 years. It's still 15%. It's still 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. It's still 15%. Instead of 20 years, it's 10 years. And we're not talking about a few months versus a year. We're talking about many, many years switched, moved in tighter. Ultimately, that is how Jackson also describes the situation. That we're not talking about removing any programs out. We're not talking about changing the pay-fors for the programs. We're not talking about changing how much the programs pay a citizen for. We're talking about how the programs operate. And that's what's incredible great news. Now, let's go over to the big exciting details of what is unfolding this week and then also third stimulus. First, let's turn to third stimulus. Third stimulus is very exciting. I mean, I'm very excited for viewers who have really laser focused on this third stimulus. Why? Because the third stimulus money is right now, and that additional $13 billion is huge. Get that pen, paper, and cell phone ready. Let's go over all the incredible money that you can get right now. We're going to go over rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance that you can get. This is huge, so get ready. First, the rent, utilities, and mortgage have just, SNAP have literally gone up 200, 300, 400% in just a few weeks. Look at the money for rent about a month ago. Now the rent has gone up to nearly $40,000 viewers are getting. When we talk about the money for utilities, Mark's brother-in-law got $15,000. That's 300% from where we were a month ago. Then we look at the SNAP, it's gone up to $21,000. Get that pen, paper, cell phone ready. I'm going to show you how to get this big money right now. Here we go. We're going to get some rent, utilities, mortgage assistance. I'm going to show you 6 places to reach out to. You reach out to all 6. Listen to the keywords I say in this video. And then also get ready for those nonprofits. Here are the 6 places you reach out to. City Hall, City House Authority. County Hall, County House Authority. State Hall, and State House Authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID. Mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Next, if you remember this channel, which I hope you are, the newsletter has that Treasury statement in there. Read that Treasury statement before you call for the rent, because I want you to know what it is. It's going to land everywhere, red, blue, purple states, everywhere. But it won't be there forever. So when you call up, ask where it is, get on the waiting list, things like that. Next, reach out to all utility companies. So if you have 5, reach out to all 5. And then finally, the nonprofits. Wow, big success story. Viewers are having a lot of success with the nonprofits. First, remember the nonprofits pay for all the items that are also in the third stimulus, but with different eligibility. So if you're having eligibility issues, you've exhausted the 6 places I detail, then reach out to the nonprofits. The 5 nonprofits are United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. They're also featured in the newsletter. Next, it's important to understand that the nonprofits pay for other items that are not even in third stimulus. For example, 2 viewers got new refrigerators, a furnace, and a window broken fix as well. The nonprofits pay for sometimes clothing, sometimes homeless people in the shelters. They pay for different items that are not in third stimulus. So lean on those nonprofits. Also, Salvation Army is helping with holiday gifts right this month, so rely upon that as well. Here again are the 5 nonprofits: United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. Next SNAP, yeah, it's October, and guess what? Everyone's SNAP benefits are going up lifetime, an average of 25% automatically this month. This is huge. The great news is that the SNAP benefits were confusing because people got that September letter saying their benefits are going down. Well, now they're going up, and it's lifetime. Watch that second letter. Reach out to the Department of Agriculture to get that big money for SNAP. And then finally, the unemployment benefits. Wow, 1 and 2. Let's go over each of them. First, the refund check from your state due to overpayment. Yes, it's landing anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. Reach out to your state for tracking time. And then the refund check from unemployment benefits you pay taxes on. Average payment is about $1,200 to $2,000. Ensure you get this big sum of money. The incredible money across the board is the following. Is that when we talk about this money, it's important to get as much of it as you can. Finally, if you haven't become a member, consider becoming a member. The link is under the video. The link under the video is for members across the board. I want you to get the big sums of money for rent, utilities, and food. Consider becoming a member today. Members are delivered the newsletter that comes out every day at about 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And that newsletter that comes out is helpful. Why? Because I don't think that they're going to do third stimulus rent and utilities again under fourth stimulus. Johnny got 80,000, Mark got 50,000. So get that big money across the board. And with that, let's go over 3 things I want you to promise yourself for this new week. 1, I want you to advocate. Pick up the phone and advocate to as many offices as you can. First, before you do, think up why your story is unique. What's unique about your story? Maybe it's your family, your community, your town. Think about why you want to do why you need this money. And think about your message before you make the phone call. Remember, you're not asking questions. You're saying statements. I need money for this. And if you're going to leave a voicemail, then you're leaving a voicemail. Next, the important thing to remember is that I want you to advocate in as many places as possible. Say your state, and that you're from LA. Then I want you to get as much money as you can on the third stimulus. That money is not going to be around forever, and I don't think it's coming back on the fourth stimulus. I want you to get rent and utilities as far as you can in 2022. Sorry, I almost lost a year there. And then finally, I want you to rely on the nonprofits. It's not that cold out yet. It's not the winter months. And when they start getting those phone calls, boy, they get swamped. At the moment they're not getting swamped. Viewers are reporting quick turnaround times from St. Vincent de Paul and United Way for rent. So do it. Finally, as we go in the final minutes of this video, let's recap where we are. The recon pass, a $3.5 trillion recon passing in a house, detailed only on this channel, not really covered anywhere else. And that was why it was so important, because all these loaves, as Sheila Jackson calls, are staying in there. They're not going to do a half-baked loaf, says Jackson. She's from Texas. So they're not going to do a half-baked loaf. They're going to do the full loaf. And they're not going to take out loaves either. They're going to keep the loaves, everything that's in there. And of course, they can add stuff as well. It's important to know what each of these loaves are, how they pay, and advocate for the inclusions across the board. Coming up next are shows at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11:30. I want you to watch those shows because it shows you how to get big monies and how to track it under stimulus. It's important to understand that every bank does something different. So watch those videos. And then Overnight's Crypto currently also playing on this channel. So much across the board. And with that, I want you to subscribe. It's 400,000 subscribers on YouTube record. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk Barrel Power Council VIP. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.